Hey, pleasure to meet you, man.
Hey, it's a pleasure to meet you. Oh, did you see the trophy
Of course, man. It looks awesome, man.
and the medal?
Golden
This
medal,
sucker's
yeah.
heavy too, man. I tell you.
Bring it up to the
Let
screen.
me
Bring
see.
it up to the screen.
Sorry.
There you go.
You guys see that?
Oh yeah, beautiful
Isn't that
trophy.
beautiful? Oh, here's the back. I don't know if you can read that.
Yeah, first place, classic physique.
First ever. It's like
So, Danny, how you doing?
I'm doing better. It's a little overwhelming. I was just so focused and driven to go so hard, and then it's all done. It's like I get up, I don't even have to do cardio if I don't want to. So I can eat whatever I want. It's like almost you get a little postpartum depression. It was I told my wife, a couple of days afterwards, like, wow, this is weird. Is this what you women go through when you have a kid? Because I wasn't as excited as I thought. Now I'm starting to feel it, starting to claim it, as Mr. Olympia, classic physique. So
Absolutely. Big congratulations to you. I think it was an amazing victory. And I have to be very honest,
thank you.
prior to the competition, everybody kept talking, on the social media, in the regular media, everybody kept talking about, obviously Sadiq and Arash, coming in there and competing for that first place. And suddenly you came out of nowhere. Well, to many of us, you came out of nowhere and just
Yeah.
and won it. You know what I mean? Did you have the mindset of winning, or was it a wild card for you? Or what was your mindset like going into the competition?
Well, I've been competing since 1989, and I love to compete. I was kind of hesitant at first with the bodybuilding because you had to wear the small trunks to pose in. My first show, one of the judges was the judge at the Olympia, and she was one of the very first judges at my very first show. And at the time, she's still cute, but she's this is like 25 years later. So I got to focus wearing those little trunks, not so much on the male judges, but on the female judges, so I didn't feel as weird when they were smiling and stuff. So I was able to kind of, put out a little bit more charisma and sex appeal. Because to me, I always felt it had to be sexy. That's why when I got to a high level, and I got there pretty fast, I was not too big, but I loved to compete, and bodybuilding was my passion. So I stopped as a middleweight. And so whenever I would compete, I might take second or third, and I didn't win, and I didn't really care to win, because once you win, you're a pro. Now you got to step it up and compete against the big boys, or else you disappear and you're irrelevant. So I always stayed relevant because of that, symmetry that I had. And nowadays it's all about the size. They'll overlook some blockiness in the waist and the other parts as long as your weight is crazy and you're shredded. That's what it's about. They lost, I think, the aesthetic aspect of it, and it's got to be really hard, to be honest, with your health. And a lot of these guys are my friends, and I worry about them. There's always people that love it. I respect it. I respect the hard work, the muscle, but at a certain point, I wouldn't want to trade my body for anything. I don't care.
Right.
Even if I was 10-time Mr. Olympia, I don't want to look like that. So when they came out with this new classic category, I was like, wow, I actually have something now that I can really train for, that I can really take first place in. I really focus, and this is the hardest and most dedicated that I trained for a competition. I had to turn on, being an asshole a little bit and not talk to people, and it was kind of weird. It was kind of weird being like letting them know I'm training here. I'm not talking anymore. This is not the old Danny anymore.
Who are you training with? Are you just training on your own?
Well, that's the thing. I'm in Gold's Venice. I've been there since 1989. So I have the whole gym as my trainer. I could walk up to all these guys and just ask them their advice, ask them to look at me, get their opinion on what they did this show, what I did the last show. What do you think about this and that? So, I had the benefit of not, and also the experience of knowing my own body, because I've been doing it for so long. For me, it was more just about the mental pushing, having someone there to say, hey, that's not enough cardio. Why are you leaving? But I knew. I'll tell you, about 3 weeks out, I knew that someone was going to have to be really good to take it from me. I kind of knew when I went out, on my free posing, at the prejudging, the condition I was in, everything was spot on, better than I've ever had before in my career. And it's, like the work I put in reflected it. And I just saw the judges' faces, even the ones that weren't big fans of mine and thought I was just, placing well and arrogant or whatever because of my symmetry and all that, and just taking second and third, not really caring if I won. Their mouths were open. When I saw the look on their faces, I kind of knew I had it, And the cool thing is my mom, in 25 years or more of competing, she has never been to one competition of mine. And she went to this one. And I won, when I was there in the front. My wife and my mom were sitting there crying. It was just, that to me was icing on the cake. I mean, I could have had it better. I could retire right now, and honestly, my dream and my passion is satisfied. And I don't, to be honest, I don't appreciate the judges giving it to guys over and over again, because I just had so many of my boys like Flex Wheeler, Sean Ray, all these guys that should have had the Olympia title, but they never got it. So for me to compete and take it away from some guys that really deserve it, also, and I've already gotten it. I mean, my motto is, and I'll eat my words, but that's fine, next year, if it's close between a Mr. Olympia and guy coming up, they need to give it to the guy that's coming up, because Mr. Olympia already has a title, and he just needs to work harder next time if that's the case.
Interesting. There was some controversy, right, of some people attacking you on social media, you responding back to them and going back and forth with people, right?
Yeah, that's another thing. I'm kind of new at this. I take things pretty personal. Right. And now I'm starting to learn, and what gave me a good example of just the reality of what you have to deal with, especially when you're a champion. It was like, wow, I just did all this work and worked my ass off, and half these people weren't even at the competition. Because I'll tell you what, a lot of them I would probably feel the same way, because pictures don't do justice. Right. I mean, if you weren't there, you don't get the whole dynamic of the competition. It's really is different, being there and just looking at some pictures, because rather than someone snapping it when I'm not ready in mid, like flex, flexing your abs, and I'm breathing in, about to blow out, but they'll catch me, breathing in, so my stomach looks big, and they make all these comments, and the other guys look great because they hit the pose on time. So you can always find a bad picture.
Right. Now, also wanted to ask you, this year, another veteran, Kevin Lebroni, made a comeback to the Olympia stage after being away from the stage for about 13 years or so. Did you get a chance to see him on stage, and what are your thoughts on his comeback in general?
I did. Kevin is a friend of mine, and I talked to him even before that quite a bit, and he told me that he was going to think about coming back. I thought, man, if they had this classic, I thought maybe it'd be good for him to do something with that, because that, just to go to that level again, and it is different. You compare the guys that he competed against, I think it was a little bit more aesthetic back then. Even though Ronnie Coleman was the biggest, he's bigger than anyone now, for sure. But the rest of the guys still had an aesthetic aspect to them. It was a freshness, a cleaner look, the lines, and the posing too. And I think for him to go back on stage, he's definitely going to have to be a monster, and to be a monster takes a long time. You can't just go balls to the wall in less than a year. Sorry, it just doesn't happen. I was just a little bit disappointed, I guess you can say. His lower body just wasn't up to par, and I just don't know why he would do that. Everybody knows their body. He had to have known how he was going to look, but he got a lot of hype for it. I just wish that hype would have been more justified. I just think there's so much more that he can do. He's a legend, man.
Yeah.
I don't know why he feels like he needs to go and try to compete against these guys. He has nothing to prove. And if it comes to a point where my body's not really responding anymore, I'm not going to abuse it and try to push it to the next level just to get another trophy or whatever. And that's when I do something else. People have to realize that. And I think I've been fortunate enough to be with world-class champions of all sports and to see their lives, being so on top and to start slipping, and what they make of themselves afterwards. That's the sign of a true champion.
After you decide to retire or give up the title, who do you think will take it, Arash or Sadiq?
You know, they both came from men's physique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They both never competed as a bodybuilder. And I was very impressed with both of them, especially Sadiq, because he's actually never competed as a bodybuilder or posed or anything.
Right.
Because they pushed us. I have to say they pushed us. I don't know if they were just doing that because I was the old dude and they wanted to see if I was going to fall off. But at a certain point, I'm thinking, they're bringing us out a little bit too much. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? They're trying to kill me? I got about 3 more poses left and I'm done, man. I hope this is done soon. So I try not to show it in my face. But Sadiq, he hung, man, I have to say, you know. Arash, he looked great, you know. Presentation, I see his social media, you know, he does a lot. He does a lot for the sport. You know, he's very articulate. I see him post a lot of things on YouTube videos and teaching people, and you know, and that's something I have to get more in. I'm just so much of a perfectionist and a little more reserved. You know, that's not the generation I came from. You know, I was doing magazine covers inside of the magazines. That's how people found out about me and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That's kind of easy. You don't have to necessarily be as involved, right. And you don't have to read all the comments either. That's another thing. I'll tell you, man, it was like, whoo! I gotta learn that. I'm getting better. My skin's getting thicker. You know, it's like kickboxing. You gotta kick that palm tree and desensitize those shins. You know. But Arash really is a great ambassador, and he brought it. There's a certain type of conditioning and completeness and polish that wins shows. When I saw everybody backstage, I knew it was going to be Breon, the kid that took 4th, and Arash. He's a taller guy. He's a big dude, you know, but I think he needs a little bit more refinement in certain areas to get that classic look. It's classic physique is what people have to realize. And Sadiq's almost just as big of a guy as Arash is. Mm-hmm. Potential-wise, right now I would have to say Arash. You know, he needs to bring his arms up and just a little bit more areas because he is longer, mm-hmm. You know. But they're both very attractive, appealing physiques. I just think Arash is much more complete.
I don't know how anybody can do, like, smoke weed and do oxycontins. I don't want to be mellow. If I was going to be a drug addict, I'd probably be a cocaine head or whatever you call cokehead or something. Because I like being up. I don't like that. Like, I don't know how anybody likes to sit and feel mellow, you know. Not me.